Bada bing. Live and broadcasting to who the hell knows how many countries around the world, and only in the Technicolor that you could see if you are not colorblind. Welcome to the late night edition, ladies and gentlemen, of the Bottom Line Podcast. If you have stumbled upon this podcast and somehow, some way it was not an accident, you must also know by chance that I am the host of this podcast, Davidson Baker, and I would like to thank you for joining me. So, a little bit of a new thing we're going to be doing on this podcast, at least so presumably so, and what the plan will be going forward is we want to kind of take some time to shed some light on the association and all of its glory. Basically, an idea that's been sparked by a good friend of mine, a friend of the podcast, someone that if you have any type of vested interest in me or him as a person, you know this man very well. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back Tighe Ljungholm to the program for the third time. Mr. Ljungholm, how you doing, brother?
I'm doing great, and I appreciate you having me back on for a third time now.
And I mentioned in the description of this video, this will be a pretty familiar site, I believe. Tighe and I are going to be planning on doing these every week. And what better time to do it than now throughout the NBA playoffs? Before you know it, the NBA draft lottery will come around, and they might as well open up a 2 to 3 p.m. slot on ABC after General Hospital this summer for what is coming in free agency. So you best believe Tighe and I will be all over that.
A lot
all
of good
summer.
stuff. A lot of good stuff.
Yeah, man. I was reading off the list of free agents again today. It's going to be some exciting shit. Real quick, before we get into the nitty gritty of it, some things to expect coming up this week for listeners on this podcast. Tomorrow evening, for those that have clicked on this and are wondering, where the hell is, why is he talking about fights? Relax, man. Tomorrow night I'll be joined. Tomorrow night I'll be joined. By BoxingGrace.com's Daniel Yanofsky, as well as freelance journalist and writer David McGrath. Will be talking about everything that has to do with the UFC Bellator Double Dip tomorrow this weekend, rather, on Wednesday. One of my favorite podcasts I've ever done from last year makes its return by way of joined by the one and only Tino Vergels and Eli Milligan. Will be doing an NFL mock draft special. That'll be Wednesday, and then Thursday.
Can't miss television right there.
Oh, dude, I'm telling you, it's gonna be a blast. I can't wait. And then Thursday, I will be taking Thursday solo for my 60th episode. It will be literally the moment that the first round of the NFL draft concludes. I will go live and share my reactions as well as my grades for the first round. However, we are kind of centered into the world of NBA, and that is where Tighe and I will kind of begin things here. For those that listen to this podcast, I think somewhere in the mid 40s. I know I just said it. Tighe joined me in the preseason. So later on in the episode, we will talk about, we made all of our picks for overs and unders. Results a little bit left to be desired, but nonetheless, we continue to chug along. Mr. Tighe, I'm going to let you have the floor for a second to tell me what you saw tonight. A couple of series that seem a little bit uncompetitive on the scratching of the surface. However, Utah survives another day and Milwaukee sends Detroit packing. Give me kind of your thoughts of what you watched tonight, as well as maybe yesterday, with all four road teams being the higher seeds yesterday, all picking up W's.
Yesterday, I thought that the Celtics was kind of to be expected. I saw that sweep happening versus the Pacers. In terms of the Bucks and Pistons, I didn't know coming into the series that Blake Griffin was going to be out for the first two games of the series. Apparently, it was pretty surprising that he even came back for Game 3.
Me too.
He did all right, actually. I mean, he had a good game, but that being said, they just don't have enough bench power or even star power realistically to keep up with a team like the Bucks. So that didn't necessarily surprise me. I thought this Jazz Rockets series would be a little bit more competitive, but that being said, in hindsight now, if you think about it, I should have probably seen this Rockets team handling the Jazz more so than I actually did coming into the playoffs.
Right.
I don't think the Rockets should have even slipped down to this 4 spot as they did. The Blazers are handling your Thunder, and we'll get to that. But
Of course.
I was certainly somewhat surprised to see the Rockets kind of handle the Jazz how they have. I mean, good for the Jazz to get one game off in the series, but I see the Rockets probably ending that series in 5 as well.
I mean, and how fitting is it too, man? A team that has become the moniker for woefully underachieving, primarily in the first round of these playoffs, in terms of Portland. You know, you get Billy Donovan about 20 feet away from you, and you never know what the hell you can achieve.
Right. Yeah. If I'm a Thunder fan, I'm probably on the same page as you. As it's time to get rid of Billy Donovan.
I'm ready to light his pants on fire, man.
As my roommate walks in, that happens to be a Thunder fan as well, shakes his head in agreement.
I mean, you know, because it gets to a point, man. Here's my question to you. If you worked in construction, okay, and if you worked in construction and you had prior experience in the past, all right, and you have a new boss, right, and this new boss brings to you and your coworkers, colleagues, whatever, one of the more difficult and elongated projects that you've ever had to work on in your life.
How long has he been there? Before you continue to go, how long has he been there now? Is this season 6?
No, 4.
4. Okay, so I'm jumping from the gun a lot.
That actually you know, the knowledge of that fact alone brings me to my point. If you were to be doing construction for not 4 years, but at least analogy wise and whatever would be a long time for you to accomplish that job in this given scenario, at what point does somebody who is higher up go, hey, this looks way the fuck worse than it was when it started? Who's in charge here? Okay. Can you tell Mancy to tell him he's fired now, please? Because that's how shit works, Ty.
In the real world.
You cannot name a single individual on that roster that was with him when he took over and is still there now that is a better player. Not only, Ty, can you not do that, you cannot tell me one player that has not gotten worse. Russell's gotten worse. Steven Adams has gotten worse. Believe it or not, Andre Roberson's free throw percentage has even found room to get worse. Everything has gotten worse.
See, but at what point do you put it on more I'm interested to know if, like, from a fan's perspective, like, if you're a Thunder fan, how do you feel? Like, how do you make the difference between blaming it all on the head coach or blaming a chunk of it on the head coach, I should say, or blaming more of the chunk of it on your superstar point guard, Russell Westbrook?
Understandable, and
Mr. Triple Double now. Like, it's odd to me. Yeah, he can get all these stats, but it's like, have you seen his last? I saw a stat today. His last 14 playoff games, he shot less than 50%, and all of those, and on a lot of them, he shot less than 40%.
He was 5 of 21 last night, man. I kind of sensed that things were beginning to unravel with him too early or late in the second half. And here's my thing. I tweeted this out the other day. Someone asked me if I believe if I believe Russell is the problem. Yes and no. I think might have been. I think Russell is a small part of the problem. I think that what you should ask of your point guard in the National Basketball Association, without going beyond any parameters, are 3 things. Be efficient with the basketball. Be uniquely yourself while being creative with the basketball. In better terms, distribute it well.
Yeah.
And make smart decisions. How many boxes can I truthfully check on a night-to-night basis there for Russell? Maybe 0. And where Russell, evens it out in athleticism and explosiveness and his ability to get to the rim and his ability to draw defenders on him, which is great. Being able to draw offenders' attention on you is great. But then that brings me back to who to point the blame in. And here is where the percentage of the pie is to blame on the front office. We don't have shooters to kick to.
That's true.
We can't shoot at all. The team right now, in my opinion, is trapped. I think the Oklahoma City Thunder, from an Oklahoma City Thunder fan perspective, with no bias involved on this podcast, are trapped. I think that the next few years are going to be very difficult for Thunder fans to kind of take in, because as long as Russell Westbrook and Paul George are there, regardless of how good your supporting cast is.
What's Paul George's contract look like now? Because he just re-signed, right?
I think another 3 years, right?
Yeah.
But here's the thing, man. Russell's contract, I mean, it's untradeable.
You guys are with Russell for a very, very, like, for life at this point. In my
dude,
eyes.
he's gonna make $47 million in 2 years. That is insane.
That's absurd.
That's insane, bro. And he's getting worse.
It's crazy that you can say that even after he's averaged a triple-double for the second consecutive year in a row now.
Right. And dude, I appreciate Russell for as much as the next guy does. And maybe that's even a lie, because I've been saying for the longest time as a Thunder fan, I'm in the minority by saying that I think that maybe it won't be the worst idea in the world to see what you could get for him in a trade. Right. I think it makes a lot of sense. However, here's the thing. I've been saying it for a while. You can only ooh and ah me for so long with triple doubles. But at the end of the day, when the Suns were playing the Lakers in the 2004 playoffs or whatever, how many times did you overhear or see or have someone ask you how you felt about how awful Steve Nash was on the glass? Never. Not once.
That was never a conversation.
So why should we care about point guards getting rebounds now just because it's in a double digit, nature of variety with points and assists and rebounds? Because at the end of the day, all that it says in the record books is Oklahoma City lost to pencil in team here in first round of the playoffs for now the third consecutive year.
Okay. So let me kind of switch gears here a little bit. At what point do we start to give Dame Lillard a whole lot of credit for what he's doing though too? Because he's been unbelievable. And
that guy might not ever get the credit he deserves, bro.
And it's about time that he does. I mean, if you look at this roster without Nurkic, especially, if you look at it from head to toe, I'd probably say that the Thunder have the better roster overall than
just like the last two playoff series we've lost.
That's true.
That's what puts Donovan. The last thing I'll say about the Thunder thing is that's what puts Donovan over the edge for me, is that not only are you losing in the first round, you are losing to teams that on paper should not touch you.
I mean, yeah, you can't have two different players that are like that back-to-back years have been up for MVP conversation and knock it out of the first round of the playoffs back-to-back years as well.
And what good does losing in the first round do? Do you see anybody dancing in the streets of Oklahoma City about grabbing the 24th overall pick? It's bad. The franchise is stuck. They're stuck. They're fucked, and they are in quicksand. And I have realized that. However, let's kind of switch gears to this. Let's kind of go series by series, at least starting in the Eastern Conference. We kind of know, and we figured more than likely those with, I would say, any type of mental prowess surrounding the NBA could have probably guessed beyond a reasonable doubt that the Bucks, Celtics, Sixers, and Raptors were not only going to be the four teams vying for the East, for the Eastern Conference, but also the four teams that would get out of the first round here. It seems that we already have one of those series done, and we could have the other two wrapped up tomorrow. I am very, very excited to get the Eastern Conference semifinals underway, because these are the four teams that I've been saying all year are the four teams that are,
I was going to say, I think that as poorly as we may have done guessing the 8 teams to make the Eastern Conference Finals, we definitely got. I think we were both for 4 on who was going to proceed out of the first round. And from a basketball fan perspective, like, you can't beat. This is what we asked for. This is going to be amazing.
But of course, a team that you and I both whiffed on badly, and we'll get into the exacts of each and every NBA team towards the end of this podcast. But who can blame us both for whiffing that badly on Brooklyn? We both said they would be under 32 wins.
I mean, yeah, and I'm not necessarily surprised by that because I don't think anybody could have seen D'Angelo Russell taking this big step forward that he took.
Good for him, man. Good for him. He deserves it.
Yeah, as a Lakers fan, I'm a little bit salty that Lopez, for one, ended up taking off for the Bucks as he did, and then D'Angelo Russell also becomes an all-star. And Julius Randle also took a huge leap forward too. Like everything that Magic Johnson, and then he steps down. So it's like I won't get into it from a fan-sided standpoint, but
no, man,
it's rough.
I encourage you to show your fandom on here. You know, we want to try to like be at least somewhat biased, but your passion is what brings out how you feel about these situations. That's what makes us fans and not fan addicts. Regardless, though, I do want to touch on that with you. The Lakers. Obviously, going into this season, you and I and many others coined the Lakers solely off the basic knowledge that LeBron James would wake up every day and on more often than not of an occasion would be putting on the purple and gold before he laces them up that night. I mean, it's foolproof.
I
right?
think a lot of us were, and I think a lot of us thought that. I think that honestly, almost every take that I saw, professionally or not, was for the most part everybody was all in on the Lakers. Like it didn't matter. LeBron was in town. They were going to the playoffs. At least going to make probably that 8 seed spot.
People were saying they were going to be the 2 seed, bro.
I mean, I think I had him as the 3 or the 4 personally. So it's like I'm not going to sit here. The 4. I'm not going to sit here and hate on opinions. I mean, that being said, injuries did trouble this team way more than I think anybody could have expected. It seems like it was like one injury were to happen, and then somebody would come back, and it's like their next good, like really solid player would go down with an injury as well. It went like Lonzo or Rondo realistically first, then to Lonzo, then to Ingram. Like it just seemed like things were not falling into place for this team, and LeBron haters are probably loving it.
Dude, you know, one thing we will not do is address the LeBron haters. I mean, just because, like, dude, that's like hating IKEA. Like, oh, look at this fucking really sick and really amazing thing that has zero type of comparison or parallel dimension to it. This sucks. Yeah, okay. like you know what I'm saying? But here's my thing. Obviously, nobody going into this season expected the swine flu to break out in the Lakers locker room and for everyone to, at some point this season on that roster, spend an extended period of time out. Nobody expected LeBron James for the first time in his career to have an injury as significant as it was, to the point where he kind of lied straight up.
And it really was the first time in his career that we've seen an injury this prolific to the point where LeBron was like, I have to be out for a month plus at a time. That's at least from what I can remember.
And that's not what he said at first, too. They made it seem like he was day to day.
And they kind of tried to like sludge the Lonzo injury along like that for as long as they possibly could, too. They kept saying 2 weeks, and then it continued to be like, okay, now he's just out for a season.
I think a lot of things were handled very poorly by the Lakers this year. I think the Anthony Davis thing was a disaster too.
Yeah.
Because why would you even throw your name into the hat and create all this speculation? Therefore, look, we understand as human beings and fans of the sport, as well as the players do. They're not idiots. They understand it too.
Yeah.
That basketball is a business. At the end of the day, it's a game that we love to watch and they love to play, but has a bottom line with a decimal point and a dollar sign in front of it at the end of the day. And what comes with that is the possibility of guys being moved, guys being traded. Circumstantially speaking, the Lakers were primarily very young, to which maturity would.
And I was going to touch on that just briefly. Like that's I mean, it's easy for us to sit here and say like, yeah, it is a business, but I don't really know like how tough that is for a 19, 20-year-old kid to hear, okay, me and all my boys might be getting shipped off for arguably the top 5 NBA player in the world.
Right. And it's not only that, I would obviously imagine some guys of a higher coin of maturity are going to be able to handle that no problem. But this is the thing, dude.
Tobias Harris.
It was literally everyone. Like, if your name is not LeBron James, you're being shopped. And I think that created, like I said, man, these guys understand that it's a business and basketball is going to, continue to walk along the path that it does as a business. Regardless, though, what are you doing? What are you doing as a franchise for your team's morale and overall chemistry by basically trotting these guys out there every single night with no exaggeration at all, 90% of them unaware if the game that they're playing in is the final game that they'll be playing in a Lakers roster?
Harrison Barnes literally got traded mid fourth quarter of I don't know who Dallas was playing at the time, but he got traded to the Kings mid fourth quarter and found out while he was on the bench. So to say that, like, and I've given LeBron and other players a hell of a lot of shit for bouncing on teams how they do, but realistically, it makes a lot of sense. Like, why would people be super loyal to teams if teams are able to just do that? And I mean, that's ultimately what it comes down to. It's a business. But like that being said, it's still got to be an interesting scenario for freaking, like you said, 90% of the roster to be going out there playing, like, not knowing if this is going to be their last game in LA, and then
Interesting. A phrase that maybe some would coin. I would say others might coin it as kind of dysfunctional, in a sense. And also, there were question marks about the Luke Walton thing. I mean, look at when we circle this situation like buzzards, man. I mean, we continue to nitpick different things that kind of went off the rails. And we haven't even touched on two of the big things that I think showed the dysfunction. Hey, talking at all about engaging in trade talks for Anthony Davis earlier this summer and making it known and basically holding up an illuminated sign as big as one would be on the catwalk in Vegas and being like, "Hey man, we're willing to trade anybody," to a team that damn well is not going to engage in any type of trade until the offseason, doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense.
I see. And that being said, I don't know if they'll get an offer. I mean, they'll still get obviously some amazing offers. The Celtics are going to clearly send the house out. Like, likely the Lakers will probably send the exact same offer that they sent this past February, January, whatever it was.
Right.
And I could honestly also see the Pelicans accepting that trade offer too, like, because they didn't have to do anything, and they knew that they had all the leverage, and they knew that.
And leverage being the key word, because they do have all of the leverage. Anthony Davis is, you could consider Anthony Davis. You add him on a few specific rosters in this league, depending on and solely revolving around what his supporting cast would be. It's hard to coin anybody championship contenders in the NBA now with what Golden State's been doing. But I mean, like, that's kind of if Anthony Davis joined the Celtics right now with no changes to that roster going into next season, that's a championship contender.
Absolutely. I'd agree.
Especially in the Eastern Conference. It's going to be Rock'em Robots, man, in the East going in. I mean, I think Bucks, Celtics, and Sixers, Raptors both series have every bit of capabilities of the capability to really captivate the fans. Kind of give me your thoughts going into. We'll talk about the series that is not yet.
We haven't touched
not yet materialized.
We haven't touched about an exciting series in the Western Conference still.
Oh, we will. We'll get to the West.
Eastern Conference wise, okay. I like
and I know you're talking about earlier. You're talking about the only series that's been really exciting whatsoever in this first round, and yeah. But sticking in the East for the moment. Let's touch on the series that has not become official as of yet. Both teams have a chance to clinch tomorrow night on their home floors, which I believe both should be able to do.
I like both teams to do
Pulling up
that.
the lines right now, I would imagine the Raptors are around like 9.5, 10.5, 11.5, Sixers 8.5. Jeez, dude, the over-under for that game is 229.
For Sixers Nets,
Yeah, dude.
I like the under on that for sure.
And
All these,
then
dude, most of these playoff games have been going under by a long shot.
it's not surprising. I think guys are, somewhat sitting down and playing some semblance of
Yeah, it's time
defense.
to D up. It's the playoffs, so I understand it.
Carmelo just had a panic attack somewhere out there. Just you uttering those words. It's time to D up, Carmelo somewhere.
Hell no.
Oh, come on, coach. You know I don't do that. Right after giving up a straight layup in the
I'm gonna go
fourth
stay. I'm
quarter.
gonna go stand in the corner. It's just gonna work out.
He like, hey, coach, what was that? What was that shit you were saying about that word? It was right before I dropped 16 points in a row. Oh yeah, defense. What is that shit?
You don't do that.
um, dude,
Uh,
I think when you scratch the surface of Raptors and Sixers, I think it's refreshing a little bit because we've seen Sixers Celtics, we've seen Celtics Bucks in the past, and we're gonna get Celtics Bucks again. Granted, I think
this is a whole new
Bruce
Bucks team.
absolutely, and I think Broussard made a great point. Um, Broussard made a great point about it earlier today. Not only have the Bucks kind of come into their own, and particularly you can talk about Giannis all day long, but like what about the supporting cast that has not only taken their role in stride, but fit seamlessly into them? Guys like a Chris Middleton, guys like a
He
Malcolm
surged. He beat Chris
Brogdon.
Middleton for one, became an all-star. Bledsoe's balling out of his mind too whenever he wants to. Honestly,
And
I
Malcolm Brogdon, former rookie of the year.
and he's coming back from what I've heard as of like today. This is the first I've heard about it. Apparently, he's coming back possibly game one, but I heard a game four is also likely. So I don't know. I've heard two different, completely different rumors. So
It's huge for them, man. And also, Broussard made a really good point today. In the NBA, you can only go so far in terms of effectiveness with your head coaching. Eric Spoelstra, when he would coach the Heat in the regular season, it was basically, all right, you go there, you go there. LeBron, take that orange thing that bounces and just do shit.
right.
That's kind of how shit goes in the regular season.
And you
However,
can do that with
coaching,
when you have a LeBron. I mean, they've got a Giannis, which is on the verge of it. Continue. I'm sorry.
no, you're good, man. You're good. And you kind of coined into what I was going to say. I mean, having Giannis is something that
It's
is far more
similar
than
to a Miami Brown. However, their offense is way more, I think, in my mindset, my mindset, it's a lot more complex. They're doing a lot more with it, and I think that their coach is way more on top of it than I guess you could say Spoelstra
yeah.
ever was, at least in at this point. But they've also been working towards this. Giannis has trusted it. He says that he wants to stay in Milwaukee for his career.
We'll
I
see
think
about
he
that.
trusts. Yeah, I mean, we'll see. I think he trusts it though, and I think that I think. I mean, if I'm Giannis, I love their offense for him. Like they literally just clear out, and the fact that they have Brooke Lopez allows them to do just that.
Yeah, I mean, you kind of touched on exactly what was getting ready to tie the bow around my whole point is that Mike Budenholzer, that guy's the most underrated and underappreciated coach in the NBA, hands down. I would say him and Quinn Snyder. Would probably Budenholzer in the Eastern Conference, Quinn Snyder in the Western Conference,
Absolutely.
because this Bucks team with the way that they've clicked this season
I mean, he's
and the
probably got Coach of
way
the Year locked up. I would think.
I would imagine either I would say a guy whose name I would throw in the hat though, at least in terms of consideration to getting votes. Um, dude, how about why is his name skipping me? How about Kenny Atkinson in Brooklyn? I think he has done an unbelievable job.
That roster is not that talented, so I can
Not
certainly I can certainly agree with that. I mean, they're I think it'd be really hard not uh, to give it to the Bucks head coach.
No, I agree with you. And it all seems very deja vu like without having LeBron in the picture, because you want to know what was an accomplishment in and of itself for Mike Budenholzer? First of all, if you want to make sense of just how much basketball Mike Budenholzer knows, for those that aren't aware, that's a Popovich tree guy. That guy learned everything he knows from Pop.
There's a lot of
Not a
Popovich tree guys going around the league at this point, though.
Oh, hell yeah, dude. Hell yeah. It's like it's like the Saban tree. Or for a while in baseball, a lot of guys that were under the tutelage of Joe Torre for a while kind of begun to make their rounds. A lot of guys, there is an ocean of coaches in the NFL that at one point were under the Mike Holmgren tree. But yeah, man.
Belichick.
Yeah, well, to be honest with you, man,
They haven't done very well.
Yeah, guys that leave Belichick and try to do shit on their own normally don't have desired success. However,
Patricia's going to pan out okay.
We'll see. This is going to be a tough season for them. I think they're clearly, and I think there's only 2 or 3 teams in the NFL that are clearly the worst team in their division, and I think the Lions are one.
They're one of them.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, you play the Vikings, Bears, Packers in 6 of your games. It's going to be hard to come out of those 6 games better than 2 and 4 with the roster that they have. But that's a different conversation. The only other time that Budenholzer did win Coach of the Year, remember when he won 62 games in Atlanta?
I didn't realize that was him.
Yeah, 3 years ago. He was the head coach there.
He said
like they were the one. They were the 1 seed. Of course, LeBron came in and was like, "Oh, you got the 1 seed? Oh, that's cute.
The 4 seed.
We're gonna go to the finals now." Because that
was the Cavs 4 seed, right?
No, that was last year. That was last year. This is no, the Cavs were the 2. The Cavs won that series in 5 games. They went up 3-0 real quick, and then the Hawks won game 4 in Cleveland, and then the Cavs closed them out in Atlanta in game 5.
Okay.
That was the season. Yep, I'm looking at Wiki right now, and that's everything it says. That was the season. That was the Warriors' first title. So that was like when Shots Chased with Mixed Drinks was born.
That's hard.
Yeah.
Legends never die.
No, never will. Never have been, never can. Tell me point blank, man. I mean, it's a tough series to call, but if you're going with your gut, Toronto given home court, give me why and who and how many games as far as the result of that series is concerned.
Man, because I've been pulling for the Sixers, like honestly, all playoffs, and even in the regular season, I really like Embiid. I think that Simmons is a great player too. I don't know. I think the Raptors probably get them based on experience and being there before. I think that Kyle Lowry kind of has a chip on his shoulder. He's got something to prove. Kawhi Leonard has done the damn thing. Pascal Siakam is out of nowhere. I mean, he's up for most improved player of the year with Russell. So like that says something in itself.
I have a feeling Amazon droids are already flying that shit to his house. I mean, is there a more clear-cut winner for any award in the NBA other than that? I mean, what a phenomenal season and an incredible, display of one honing themselves within perfecting one's craft. I think that's what has stood out to me, is that he's really perfected his craft within what that team needs. Pascal Siakam.
Oh, okay.
I think he's clearly most improved player.
Over D'Angelo, I see it. They improved in different ways. Like it's really odd for me I don't know how to explain it.
Not only improved
Pascal Siakam kind of came into his own, like figured everything out, and I think D'Angelo Russell just started scoring the ball at a prolific rate, though, too. At the same time,
right?
He became like an all-star.
Right. The difference for me, though, in terms of that is whenever the definition of the term is most improved, we have kind of seen glimpses of what D'Angelo Russell has been able to do in the past. Granted, D'Angelo Russell obviously has
I can understand. I
tremendously
can understand
improved.
I can understand where you're going with that, though. I can get that.
Nobody expected Siakam to put up
I don't
16 a
know.
night.
Yeah,
Nobody.
that's very true. And he's been balling in the playoffs thus far too.
I mean, the guy can shoot too. I mean, he's he's a problem, and he might be the X factor in this series, man.
And then they had a Gasol, and then you've got Ibaka off the bench too. It's hard for me to not lean Raptors as much as I enjoy watching the Sixers play.
Um, you know,
Series wise, I could see that going 7 though easily too.
I could see both going 7. In terms of the East, the series that man, I don't know. I was just getting ready to say the series if I had to guess which one would be less competitive, I was gonna guess Bucks Celtics, but can we just get something out of the way, and can we just address this as a fact as it is? Tig, how many guys in the NBA are more more of a threat when their team needs a bucket more than anything else than Kyrie Irving? How many guys in the NBA are more dangerous in that situation? Like how many? Like one, maybe two. I mean, this guy, Kyrie, has really stepped up and shown
He's
exactly
a
why
bucket
he's
getter.
the
He's a
best.
bucket getter, and it's people are starting to have been mumbling to me. Gordon Hayward's starting to come into his starting to get back to
Hell
his
yeah.
zone too, and I can agree with it. I mean, I see it all. I mean,
He was phenomenal yesterday.
I think this Bucks team is a lot different than they've been in years past. Like a lot of Celtics fans like to bring up the fact that I mean, I saw a stat today. This is the first series they won since 2001, which makes a lot of sense. Like thinking about it realistically, it does make a lot of sense. But like this is a whole new Bucks team. I think this is a whole new Giannis too, and I like the Bucks in 5 or 6 in that series. Honestly,
And
I wanted to say 5. I think that's a little bit bold. I like 6. I don't.
I like the Bucks in 6.
Yeah,
I also like the Sixers in 6.
I like that.
Solely based on the premise of that, I'm the type of guy that no matter how the cards fall or no matter, what new information we become privy to in the middle of a playoffs or a preseason, I'm the type of guy that, if I made a pick, I'm going to stick with it. And I picked at the very beginning, not the very beginning of the, yeah, I mean, I guess at the very beginning of the season, whenever the Jimmy Butler trade went down, I remember going on the record and saying, look, as long as this is not a complete and total disaster from a chemistry standpoint, I think these guys on paper look like the team to beat in the Eastern Conference.
And I love this. I love these matchups that are coming up here.
Me too.
Like I'm so excited. I'm so excited. I think that the Eastern Conference got so much more competitive based on all the trades for one, but even coming into the season, I was excited for the Eastern Conference. But then the trades happened, and it's like this is gonna be the real deal.
The series matter, man. I mean, we kind of looked at the Eastern Conference for the last handful of years as like, oh, well, those series, they're going to run into, that one guy named LeBron eventually, and that will all come crashing down. Here's my question to you. What's it been like for you because obviously if it keeps score and can be found in the top 10 on Sports Center, I'm probably obsessed with it. You and I share that coin on a lot of sports, but for you, being a guy that is really really an NBA fan through and through, just because that's how you're wired, what's it been like for you watching these playoffs without LeBron? Throw him being on the Lakers out the window. Throw anything that can be attached to your fandom out the window. Just what's it been like for you as a consumer of the product, not having LeBron to see in the playoffs?
In an odd way, in the weirdest way, it seems almost like it's been a shift. He's not in the playoffs, sure. He's not even in the Western Conference playoffs. It seems like, from a fan standpoint at least, that the Eastern Conference has certainly gone up in competitiveness, and the playoffs have honestly showed it. The Magic had a freaking buzzer beat over the Raptors in game one. That was incredible. Like, it seems like it's more exciting on the Eastern Conference side, and one would expect that. Him not being there on the West, it almost seems like the West doesn't have as much hype to an extent. I don't know. The
Interesting.
Nuggets and Spurs has been a good series. Trailblazers Thunder has been competitive just in the matchups wise. Like Russ and Dame have obviously been going at it. Warriors Clippers. I mean, yeah, the Clippers came back. That was an awesome game. Like, that was incredible. But everybody knows the Warriors are going to handle them in 5. Rockets Jazz is all but done. I don't know. It
You
seems
think the
I've enjoyed the
Warriors
East.
will kind of brush them off?
What's that? I'm sorry.
You
What do
think
you
the
mean by that?
Warriors are just going to brush them off like that? I was
Who?
saying earlier today, the
Brush who off?
Blazers.
The Warriors will play the Rockets in the next round.
No, I know. I'm talking about going forward. I was saying
Forward,
earlier, man. As far as the potential, let's just assume that the Warriors get past the Rockets, okay?
right?
The
It'll be. It would
three,
be. So
it
who
would
do you?
be either
Okay,
Portland.
so do you have Portland, or I mean, okay, excuse me. Do you have
Let's address
Denver
it.
over? Do you have Denver over that? It's time to talk about the
Yeah,
series.
let's address it. The only series that has been competitive in this first round has been Denver and San Antonio. I could not give you any semblance of a clue of what to expect
Going
in
forward,
games 5 through potentially 7 in that series. I think that
my head's up in the skies for that one, man. I have no idea. I have no idea where
me
that one's
neither.
going. I thought that I liked Denver. I liked Denver initially in 5 or 6, but that's just me being probably somewhat of a ignorant Mavs fan and always ruling out Popovich when you can't do that.
No, never, 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 never. Here's the thing with Denver. You see certain things as in sports from a different perspective in person, and I had the chance to see the Nuggets in person when I was in Oklahoma in November. Here's the thing about the Nuggets, man. Just the presence of Nikola Jokic alone creates an added dynamic of the interconnectivity of the offense in which the ball can be moved. For example, and to try to make that as simple as I possibly can, those guys are as fluid and smooth and what looks like effortless
I
in
love that you
moving the
said.
ball around the perimeter as any team I've seen in the NBA in quite some time.
I love that you said that just because he's the best passing center I've seen in quite some time, honestly, and that's where it all starts. Like, that's realistic. Like, they can get him the ball up in the post, like at the elbow. It doesn't really matter. He can dish out, and he can also knock down the 3 if he needs to. So, like, he can really do it all. He takes the ball up court. Him and I think that him and that's why I love watching him play. I love watching Embiid play. I think they're just they're seeing things that you don't see people at their size able to see.
Right, definitely. And it kind of shows where the game is transcending to because Tig, I mean, you and I must be honest with ourselves upon assessment of where the game of basketball is going. It's continuing to kind of change itself in a sense to where, you know, those old days of, you know, those old days of isolating between just you and your big man from a point guard's perspective on one side of the floor to have a passing lane available to you for a bounce pass down on the low block and a spin move for a hook shot. Those days are over, man. That's
Wait,
not how basketball works anymore.
I'm a diehard Kobe fan, and a Dirk fan, and both of their styles of play. I don't necessarily know if they would coincide with the way that the game's played at this point.
I don't know about that just because I feel like those
They
two
would,
are anomalies.
yeah. Kobe's probably doing what James Harden's doing at this point, realistically, but
Kobe and Dirk gonna get buckets in any age of any game of basketball.
absolutely. But I don't necessarily even know if they would. I don't know. Those are my guys too. I don't know if they I mean, they would still be fucking standouts. Don't get me wrong, but it's a different game. It'd be interesting.
It is, and I think to be honest with you,
Like, what is Shaq doing? What is Shaq gonna do to guard? I mean, I'm getting outrageous here.
also an anomaly
But
though.
what is Shaq gonna do to
In
go out and is Shaq gonna run out to the 3-point line and guard a center way out there? Like, I don't see that happening.
No, but Shaq also kind of evens it out with in terms of if Shaq was playing in the NBA today, just because
He would
the game
dominate.
is
I'm
a
not
little
saying offense. I'm saying more of a from a defensive standpoint. You know what I mean?
yeah.
I can't see Shaq hustling out to the 3-point line to like close out on us on Brooke Lopez.
I mean, I can't see a lot of NBA centers doing that right now, man, playoffs or not. That's just how the game is played now, man. It's kind of hand up. It's kind of hand up, a hand up style of defense with a lot of closeouts. Not a lot of sitting down and lateral movement. And I think sometimes that's what makes the transition for some of these guys from college into the NBA so difficult, is because you're given a world in which you see the game of basketball that's entirely new going from high school to college. You go from the guy that is expected to dominate every night to a guy that, at any Division I program, you're just going to become a cog within a system. On a perspective of how effective you are in that system it depends on the variables. Regardless, these guys, in terms of one and dones, you're going from coach to coach to coach in 3 years. And who the hell knows if you're traded on draft night, and who the hell knows who's overseeing you in the summer league. Right. I mean, you know what I'm saying? I mean, there's a lot of differing points of views that are going to be coming at every player from every angle, to which I believe that maybe there's some sort of symbolic representation of what teams are struggling to adapt to this changing game of basketball and what teams aren't. For example, the Thunder are. The Thunder are not adapting to the change in which basketball is played at all.
That hurts you to say, but it's the truth of the matter, huh?
Man, I mean, the sting is kind of worn off. I just blew up about Billy Donovan. If you saw my snap and all my tweets the other night when I just really went into a rage about it, like I'd been building that up for a while, just because it was just like, man, why do you have two superstars and settle for mediocrity? Why?
Yeah.
What's the point?
There's no reason that you guys shouldn't be winning this playoff series.
Or last year's playoff series. There's really no reason the year before that. I don't know if I could go out on a limb and say we should have beaten the Rockets that year in that series, but I mean, we surely should have taken them to 6 or 7. Oh, and now come to think of it, who left Andre Roberson in the game to miss 11 consecutive free throws that single-handedly cost us game 4 and the series? Billy, that's something I don't get to this day, man. Like, we're up 8 in the fourth quarter, and they start hacking Roberson, and this fucking man, Billy Donovan, is sitting there like the Squidward meme with the sunglasses and like the not watching, and just he just single-handedly let Andre Roberson take us out of the series.
No more. I don't even want to play.
11 free throws in a row, man, that this guy left him in the game to miss and didn't take him out.
Oh my God.
I mean, dude, I was in the library and I had to down at PBA. I was in the library watching it, and I had to move from like in the center. Like I had to walk around the place just so I could get into one private room, the last one that didn't have anyone in it, just so I could scream shit, dude.
Dude, people probably next door still heard you, I'm sure of it.
Oh, of course, bro. And I wanted it's not that I wanted them to hear me. It's that I didn't give a fuck. It's just like, hey, dude.
It's not that I wanted them to hear me. It's that I just didn't give a fuck.
The guy that you are continuing to let miss free throws shoots 42% from the line. Did you consider taking him out of the game?
At some point, you got to pull the guy.
He was just like, oh, well, what ruined his confidence. What confidence? It's the playoffs. Who cares?
Is that what he said?
Something like that along the right is like, what kind of message am I sending to my team if I give up on a guy? Hey, dude.
He's a grown-ass man. Fuck what his
Hey, dude, if an 8-year-old wakes up and goes, I'm going to make an airplane, are you going to criticize yourself for giving up on said 9-year-old? not being able to build an airplane. No, you come to terms with fucking reality, bro. And that is something Billy Donovan did not do. That was the day kind of that I turned on him. And I've never really seen him in the same coin since. Get this, Tig.
That was some time ago.
Since being up 3-1 on the Warriors, okay?
Listening.
Since being up 3-1 on the Warriors in 2015 and the game 6 in which Klay Thompson broke the record for most three-pointers made in a playoff game. A lot of people forget that the Warriors were a game in which Klay Thompson set the record for most threes in a game in the playoffs. That does not happen. Thunder win that series. And Thunder win that game 6, and they go to the finals. Regardless, and KD very well might not have ever left. Regardless, though,
whole new NBA.
Since they were up 3-1 in that series, Billy Donovan is 4-12 in the playoffs. 3 of those 4 wins coming at home, 1-8 on the road.
You hate to see it.
I hate to see it for his family because, I mean, as fucked up as this is going to sound, it's not really the best day. It's not really the best day to see your dad in which a light he is fired publicly and knowingly in front of America.
Somebody texted me the other day and said Billy Donovan just got fired, and I truly believe that he got fired mid playoffs.
No, he was fired. He was fired. He was fired after the fourth quarter or after the game concluded in game 2.
Wait,
that was the game I was
fired
out in. No, I was just saying.
It's not like they would not have actually. They didn't fire him.
No,
but everyone knows he's gone.
Dude, I kid you not, and I cannot stress to you enough that there is not a single shred of exaggeration in my voice when I say that if Sam Presti would have walked up to Billy Donovan on the plane ride home and gone, "Hey, man, you're fired," in the middle of this series, wouldn't have blamed him. Wouldn't have. What's the point? Because in game 2, I don't know if you watched or paid close attention to game 2, they fucking quit. They stopped playing. They entered that fourth quarter. I believe it was either tied or they were down 2. And we ended up losing the game by 18. I mean, they just simply quit. And I think a lot of that attributes to the fact that it's hard to rally around or buy into a guy that all he's ever known and all he's ever been successful with is getting guys who are 18 and 19 to buy into him. Alluding to his days at Florida, in which he was obviously.
I know exactly what I know what you're referring to. It's hard. I don't know. It's how much can you hate on him if he can? I mean, you guys are still in the playoffs. It's the Western Conference. That's got to stand for something.
I guess, man. But look at it from this standpoint,
and from a non-Thunder fan perspective too. I think that Thunder fans should be putting a lot more of this on Russell Westbrook than they are.
I think you're right, but here's my take from a sports fan perspective. It doesn't matter if we're talking about the Thunder, if we're talking about the Red Sox, no matter who fits the criteria amongst the conversation of my favorite teams. My philosophy has always been, as bold as it sounds, if you cannot contend for a championship today, blow it up, start over.
I like that mindset.
And that would
I expect my teams to win championships. So I like that mindset. Because
what area do you come from?
Because talking in the NBA right now, if my Mavs or Lakers were to even just make the playoffs, I probably would have been hyped in an odd way, especially Dallas.
I guess, Tig, but you've seen the Mavs be successful throughout courses of your life. So I'll ask you this question. And they're on their way back.
Yeah, absolutely.
Here's my question to you. Let's just say the scenarios were flipped, and let's just say Kristaps and Doncic are 3. Let's fast forward 3 years, okay?
I'm interested.
Kristaps and Luka are playing amidst their peak form. You can consistently and confidently say you have 2 superstars on this team with budding potential to make some noise in the playoffs. What's your feeling coming off of 3 consecutive first-round exits. What's your feeling? Not good.
No, we got to make a move for a superstar at that point or something.
And that's the point I'm trying to make to you, man.
Yeah, no, I can respect that.
So let's get these on the record. You say Celtics or Bucks and 6. I also say Bucks and 6.
I like Bucks and 6.
I like Sixers and 6.
I like that series crazy.
Bucks and Sixers is a crazy series.
I like Raptors and 7 though.
I can see it.
Done.
I think it's going to be interesting to see finally.
I'm really interested on that. That's the Western Conference second round is also pretty awesome.
Yeah.
What do you think? You think the Warriors just roll over the Rockets?
I think the Warriors make a statement. Yeah, I think they could potentially win that series in 5 games. There's something about this Rockets team. I can't quite put my finger on it. I don't know whether it's been the waning and inconsistent health of Chris Paul throughout the course of this season, because obviously we saw in last year's playoffs, the moment Chris Paul is anything other than 100% healthy, the Warriors begin to coast.
Right.
Speaking of that particular matchup, but I don't know what it is, man. There's been something about this Rockets team throughout the course of the season, and I can't quite figure out what exactly it is. That leads me to believe that the Warriors are going to make quicker work of them this year. And obviously the only way you can go is quicker from the Warriors, being that the Rockets took them to 7 last year.
If the playoffs were to have started in March, I'd probably agree with you, but I know that the Rockets went nuts at the end of the season. They started winning a lot of games. They slumped off at the very end of the season. They totally caught up to them. But that being said, the Rockets made their push come December, January, realistically. Yep. And I think that James Harden's playing the best basketball of his entire life right now, arguably.
Guys, arguably the most unstoppable scoring threat in the history of the NBA.
And the history of the NBA, which is insane to me because I thought that Kevin Durant had that maybe
just in the context of the words I use, though. You got to be careful just within the context.
I know. Yeah. Score. Yeah.
Yep.
Absolutely. I could agree with that, but it's just I got something about that. This Rockets team I kind of like a lot. I think that tonight was just give the Jazz one game, they can go back to Houston. They're gonna get the job done.
Now, my question to you. You have an MVP vote. Who gets it?
Similar to what I just said, if you would have asked me in March, I probably am giving it to Giannis, but
I'm asking you now, brother.
I would give James Harden the MVP.
It's tough because they're both incredibly valuable in their own unique ways.
And the Bucks had a better record, and I can respect that. But Harden plays in the better conference, and he just averaged fucking 36 points. I don't know.
James Harden also shattered the record. I'm trying to remember the name of the exact stat. I think it's usage percentage. I know he shattered the NBA record for usage percentage. Basically, that stat is an underlying representation of how often you operate with the ball in your hand,
he doesn't
per possession or whatever.
People don't give him
he shattered that record.
He does it all on his own. It's just him pulling up.
And a lot of his numbers are inflated due to that. I'm not saying points. That guy can get a bucket in his sleep.
He's changing the game and shit like that. I'm telling you, he's changing the game like Curry is in a sense.
Well, Curry, I'm not coming at you to discredit what you said, because what you said is correct. But I think that we mustn't slight Curry amidst that conversation, because Steph Curry changed the game of basketball forever, man.
Yeah.
Steph Curry.
Okay, I see what you're saying. Harden changed it, but I definitely think that at this point, Harden is changing the game.
Yeah, no, I agree with you.
Drawing foul-wise with the way people are playing, it's just weird.
Think about how crazy
his offensive
it is.
style is so odd to me. I've never seen it before.
And it was odd coming out of college too. Not a lot of guys knew exactly what his role would be in the NBA coming out of Arizona State. Is this a guy that's going to primarily go with his dominant left hand off the dribble like he liked to do in college a lot? There were, a lot of questions that were answered very quickly. But all of that saying, and what I want to kind of bring this back to is, do you know how crazy it is? Steph did not just change the game of basketball, bro. Steph kind of, for a lack of a better term, he kind of culturally transcended how culturally is not the right choice of term. He transcended and moved the game into a transition period at which it will never recover, and just due to the sheer individualistic style in which Steph Curry plays, he changed the dynamic in which the game is played forever. That is so crazy to me.
Yeah, no, I mean, he's obviously he's probably changed the game more than you could say any other athlete other than maybe LeBron has in the NBA at least. They both those two would be probably tier one for transcending the game, I would say.
Absolutely. So we're getting ready to divulge into these Western Conference matchups and go over our over under blunders for this season. And then we will wrap things up. But before we do that, I must do what I got to do with the note cards in hands. And by that, I mean employ you, those that are listening to this podcast, that primarily come to me for fight coverage, to check out betmma.tips. betmma.tips is your one-stop shop for all of your betting handicappers needs. If you have any questions about what you think about a fight might go, you can either go to my profile or one of several betting experts. This comes for MMA and boxing. BetMMA.tips. That's not BetMMAtips.com. BetMMA.tips. You can check out all of my picks for every week's cards at BetMMA.tips/Davidson Baker. And also giving people a kind of a retrospect to check out my work on fansided.com. I got the biggest interview of my life in a couple days, Tag.
What's up?
I said, I was just saying, for those, lack of a better term, keep those eyes out for my content on fansided.com this week. I've got probably the biggest interview of my life on Wednesday.
Good luck to you, my brother.
I'm going to be interviewing Jacare Souza, who's in the main event this Saturday against Jack Hermanson. I've interviewed a lot of like bigger name fighters already, but I've never had the opportunity to write a feature story on a guy that is headlining in a few days. So he will be kind of like, he'll be like in the know and blah blah blah. Yeah, I was absolutely ecstatic to
you deserve it,
realization.
You've worked hard for that.
That I am. Yes, I appreciate that, brother. So keep an eye out listening for that feature piece on Jacare. I'm really looking forward to talking to him on Wednesday. But now that we've got all of that out of the way, so we get this out of the way first. Where are you leaning in terms of these last three games with the Nuggets and Spurs? It's by far the most interesting and most entertaining series from a competitive standpoint in this first round. If you had to lean one way, with two of the last three games being played in the Mile High City, which way do you think you're leaning?
I like the Spurs in 7.
Me too. I do too. I think the Nuggets are almost there, man. I think that playing a team like the Spurs will give them a lot of experience.
Had you asked me before any of these games started, I guarantee you I would have said Nuggets in like 6 or something. But now that I know what the series is and I've watched these games unfold, I definitely say I stand by it.
What changed your mind in particular, though?
I think it's just the experience factor, like you said.
How about this kid Derek White?
He's balling, obviously. Like, it's more like, for me, it's really just DeRozan and LaMarcus Aldridge just taking care of business.
But Popovich is so much like Belichick in a lot of ways, man. I
And
know
then
you
that
give him
guy,
flack, but I
no,
know you cut
he's
it.
amazing. He's amazing.
I think he's the greatest coach of all time. I mean, yeah, Phil Jackson might have 11 rings, but I mean, dude, how many rings would Pop have if he had MJ and Kobe to work with? You know what I'm saying?
Shaquille O'Neal.
I mean, yeah, I mean, the list could go on for days, but that's just my personal opinion. I think Popovich, to win 5 titles, I'm not saying that he had nothing. That's obviously not something that would ever come out of my mouth.
Yeah.
However, he's very much so in like Belichick, in which Belichick
They have a
surveys
system.
what he has. Yes, and nothing works without the system. Even when the system calls for certain situations where he's like, "Oh,
Why Leonard?
Cordero Patterson running back, yeah, that's got to happen." It's just how it has to happen.
They
And Derek
don't care.
White
Egos don't get
coming out,
involved in those systems. They're just like next man up. It doesn't matter.
and there's no drop off. When talking about the Spurs, I mean, think of all the guys that have come off the bench for them over the years that have done this exact same thing.
I did not see them making the playoffs this year at all. And I
I
thought,
did. I remember you saying that when I went back and listened to the podcast. I remember you saying that. I was kind of puzzled by that. Just because as long as they have one superstar at least and Popovich is the coach there, they're going to make the playoffs.
yeah, Pop is the man. Like I should never have doubted him, man.
What do you assess? What are your takeaways or overall assessment of DeMar DeRozan's first season in a Spurs uniform?
I feel like I mean, I'll be
Did he
honest.
underachieve?
I don't think he underachieved. Like he kind of, I think he did what he was expected to do in my eyes. I didn't really take a whole lot of time out of my day to follow the Spurs like I probably should have. Like, but I just got, it's almost like I did expect him to be there in like a weird sixth sense. Like they're always there. But
Yeah, I mean,
like,
yeah.
but when it comes to DeMar, I don't know. DeMar DeRozan is doing his thing in the playoffs. So like already, he's putting up the same numbers. I feel like he was putting up in Toronto too.
Yeah, I mean,
Maybe a little less. Maybe a little less. I don't necessarily know if he averages as many points this season.
maybe. Let's good thing the internet exists so that can be fact checked. Regardless, I'm with you, man. I think the Spurs end up pulling it out, and that creates a very, very interesting second round series with them in Portland. What are your initial thoughts on that? Just assuming San Antonio, which is by far and away the least privy to assumption scenario we can make of any series in these playoffs.
Yeah.
Let's just say the Spurs
If the
do
Spurs
win this
if the
series.
Spurs do win this series, then I think I like the Blazers to beat the Spurs. I don't know, but if the Nuggets win, then I think that I like the Blazers. Then I think I like the Nuggets to beat the Blazers. Is that odd? It's weird like that.
No, I don't think that's odd because I think in terms of who would ultimately come out of the Blazers and Spurs to play the Warriors, I think the Warriors should be able to handle the Spurs relatively easily. However, I think this Portland team,
What could give the
while
Warriors an issue?
I definitely don't think they beat the Warriors 4 times in 2 weeks, but they're going to be a bitch.
Dude,
The way that Damian and CJ are playing right now, I think that they'll make that series a bitch for the Warriors.
I would have much rather seen the Thunder and Warriors in the Western Conference Final.
No, you wouldn't have. No, you wouldn't have, Tighe.
I would have.
No, you would not have.
I would have liked those matchups better than any of these other matchups that are possibly going to come out.
No, you wouldn't have, bro. The way the Thunder are playing right now.
Well, yeah, not the way they're playing right now, but the way I know they're capable of playing.
Russell steps up when he's playing against KD.
Who delivered the additional commentary there? I agree.
That was Fitz.
Fitz, tell Fitz I said what's up.
I think he can hear you because he's responding to your questions.
Well, how can he hear me if you got headphones on?
I don't know. It's just loud enough, I guess.
Sonar ear Fitz.
I just like that those matchups in the Western Conference.
Fitz is a big Thunder fan.
Yeah, man. I mean, It's just tough because, like, as I previously alluded to, you're in that never-ending cycle of like being good enough to make the playoffs, but bouncing early and then being shafted with the 23rd or 24th overall pick in the draft.
Right, that we're in a franchise lock right now.
Facts.
I mean, they're stuck. They're in quicksand. They are solely and they're almost self-sabotaging themselves. And I hate to continuously bring up the Thunder, but we seem to continuously come back to it.
We keep bringing them up. It's because they've
Dude,
underperformed. They've got me upset a little bit.
Though, great pickup.
Here's my question to you, Tig. If Billy Donovan were to be, if the Thunder lose tomorrow night and Billy Donovan is fired 5 minutes after the final buzzer, and that head coaching vacancy becomes reality,
you already said it correctly. You guys need Mark Jackson.
I was about to say, man,
I get fired for the game.
Mark Jackson is the home run hire here.
I mean, dude, he's got to be the home run hire for everything that he's a coach. Like.
And here's my reason why. Mark Jackson has been there, done that in terms of being with the NBA. People forget that the season before, and he
had that Warriors team, like
he did. I also think that people kind of shunned him and discredited him for a lot of reasons, more particularly, and so that the Warriors were quote unquote underachieving under him. I don't think that was more so the case. I think that the Warriors were all kind of coming into their own and just coincidentally happened to when Kerr got there.
Yeah. Like
if I told you
Kerr did anything tremendously different than what Mark Jackson was doing.
I'll tell you one thing that was different. If I told you that the Warriors finished 3rd in team defense and 4th in points allowed per game defensively in Jackson's last season there, would you think I'm nuts? Because that's a fact. That's crazy.
Did they make the playoffs? I'm sure, right?
Yeah, they were the 6th seed, 6 or the 5, and they played the Clippers in what was a really fun series. But I think they lost in 6, if not 7. And Jackson was shortly fired after that. Clearly somebody in the
that's kind of fucked up.
So clearly somebody, yeah, I'm never really for like firing head coaches that are taking the team on an upward trajectory. Billy Donovan, as we've continuously alluded to and as I've continuously said, has taken the team on a downward trajectory. However, you did like Dave Yorger with Memphis a couple years ago set a franchise record for wins in a season and got fired. Why? What else do you want him to do? You know what I'm saying? I mean, a guy wins more games than any other human being ever has in that specific job title in the history of the team, and that's not good enough for you? Right. I don't know. I mean, Dwayne Casey getting canned in Toronto. Why? Just because he couldn't beat LeBron? Hey, guess what? Nobody else could in that conference for the past 9 years.
I've never understood that firing.
They seem to manage. Okay.
Yeah, no, they're doing fine
afterwards.
So I want to talk to you about this Eastern Conference semifinals. Or not the semifinal, actually, the Eastern Conference final.
So the projected one that we have, we're both in or you think it's Bucks Raptors.
I do. I have Bucks Raptors. You have Bucks Sixers. I forgot.
Any way you could coin it is entertaining to me, solely based on the premise that there's not going to be LeBron staring at presumably the Warriors on the other side.
Right.
And I think that creates entertainment value. It gives you new faces. I mean, somebody, maybe minus like the Kyries of the world, somebody that is a superstar in this league is going to put on a game jersey with the NBA Finals patch embroidered on it for the first time in their career.
That's exciting.
It absolutely is. It absolutely is. I think it might have been what the league needed. But I digress. You know, as I said to you earlier, and my aforementioned point of being the guy that sticks with my guns, I gotta stay rolling with the Sixers here. And a Sixers Warriors final would be pretty unreal.
That's fun. That's fun.
Is that the best scenario we can come up with
I
in
think
terms of like entertainment? I think Giannis versus the Warriors has some
it doesn't
value.
have as much. It doesn't have as much, dude.
No.
The Sixers have a starting five. Like that's ultimately what it comes down to. They've got 4 superstars. Sixers have 5.
Just know though
And
that
Cousins is possibly going to come back, or is he done?
what was it?
I heard
The
that he could
quad?
possibly come back for the NBA Finals.
What was it though? Was it his quad?
Yeah.
Eesh.
Is that-
Quad
You know,
quad
you
injuries are a bitch. Quad injuries are a bitch. I wouldn't be surprised if he's done.
yeah. Regardless, I mean, the Orioles will be just fine, but that would be a really fun series.
Oh, I agree, man. I mean, yeah, I think you get Draymond Green and Joel Embiid within 5 feet of each other at Walmart. You got to get the cameras out, let alone on a basketball court. It would be phenomenal. It's unbelievable how quickly Joel Embiid gets in these guys' heads, and I love it.
Dude, he's the man. I love watching him play more than arguably anybody else in the league.
How I knew I was going to be a Joel Embiid fan for the rest of my life was in a post-game presser after they played the Pistons.
I think I know what you're gonna say.
He said something along the lines in regards to Andre Drummond. Somebody asked him something about like getting in his head, and he was like, I could barely fit in his head given all of the real estate I take up in there. I was like, dude, that's next level chirping.
He lives there.
That's next level chirping. Oh, and he really does, man, because he's a problem. He's an absolute problem. And here's another problem I have with the NBA nowadays. A lot of the narratives that become reality from teams that have 2 superstars, given the nature in which guys are switching teams so quickly, I mean, it almost always becomes a conversation of which, oh, well, what if you only have to keep one? Who says that they have to keep one? However, continuously, I keep seeing the conversation being brought up that it's like some sort of inevitability that one of these days you're going to come at the fork in the road if you're the Sixers and you're going to have to pick one.
Right.
Why?
I don't see that necessarily. It seems like, I guess from my point of view and from what I've assessed from it all, it seems like those guys both seem pretty content at where they're at in their careers, and that they want to stay with, they want to be Sixers, and they're in. I know Embiid's like committed to it. I guess I could probably maybe see Ben Simmons if he had the opportunity to go out west to LA and link up with his boy Bron, but
If you had to pick one of them, though, in the seat of the Sixers GM, knowing that going forward, you have to build the team kind of around one of them.
one player, I would go Embiid.
I mean, yeah, you have pros and cons to both situations, man. The biggest con to me with Embiid is there's absolutely no argument in what his production on the court shows. However, that's just the thing. How often can I count on him to be on the court?
Yeah, no, that's fair.
We're talking about a guy that's missed more games in a Sixers uniform than he has been a part of.
Yeah.
We're also talking about a guy that has spent at least some semblance of percentage of time on the sidelines during each and every playoff run he's been a part of with the Sixers. He missed time last year and he's missed time this year. So at some point, when do you start to say to yourself, when can you bring into question the dependability of Joel Embiid's durability going forward?
I mean, you make a obviously a really good point. I don't know. It's like that's a tough call. I mean, it's hard for me to, if he's the backbone of that team, though. In my eyes, and my point of view with the Sixers, I feel like he really is like the heart and the backbone. Ben Simmons is obviously a really good player, but it just seems to me like Joel Embiid is a difference maker. When he's out there, they're winning the games. You know what I mean?
We just got a shout out from our good friend B Rod. He's listening. live to the podcast. If B Rod is still listening to me now, shout out B Rod, the B Rod Show.
Shout out to Raj.
He quoted my comment about Embiid and Draymond Green at Walmart, and tagged you and I for better measure in it. So all of this being said, you kind of dwindle it down. All right, I have Bucks Sixers. Let's lay the land in the West. I mean, I believe that you and I are both going Warriors. And that you kind of have a three-headed monster to pick from here, given how you feel the Spurs Nuggets series is going to play out. We both seem to believe that the Spurs are going to get it done in 7. Ultimately, Blazers and Spurs.
And like I said, I like the Blazers in that aspect. If that's what it comes down to, I think I like the Blazers.
If the Spurs had home court, I think that I might take a different approach.
Yeah.
But man, Portland's a bitch to beat there. And then, as I said earlier, I think the Blazers give the Warriors a little bit of a problem, but not enough to beat them 4 times in 2 weeks. No. So Sixers Warriors would be if I were realistically predicting the way that these playoffs would go. That's how I had it from the beginning, and that's how I still have it now.
I'd go Bucks and Warriors at this point.
Both would be great series.
I'd have Bucks over the Raptors, and then I'd probably have the Warriors in 5.
Both would be great series,
and maybe 4.
Couple of questions before we head into the assessment of our over-unders, and we'll get off the airwaves. Any doubt for you? I know obviously you're a rah-rah guy for Luka Doncic, and understandably so. I obviously would be on the side of the coin that loves Trae Young. However, you know how I feel about Doncic as well. Throw all bias out the window as best as you can, Tig. Is there anything that Trae Young did while he did have momentum in this direction going towards the end of the season, and a lot of people thought so? Did he do anything to change your mind on Luka Doncic ultimately becoming Rookie of the Year?
Nah, not at all, to be honest.
He didn't for me either, and that's nothing to take away from Trae. Yeah, Trae had a phenomenal season.
Any other year, I think he gets it, but I think that Luka performed for the duration of the season. He was clearly better in the first half of the season. He was right behind him in the second half of the season, I would say.
I think where the ledge starts to, become like where you begin to get to the ledge of, okay, am I going to jump off here or am I going to turn around with Luka Doncic? Is he going to be a guy going forward in his career? Because you and I both have shared many conversations about him. We both know he's great.
Yeah.
And we both know what this kid is capable of doing, given what he's already done, knowing that he can't drink legally for another 2 years.
Yeah.
Here is where I pause. And it's not necessarily a bad thing. At what point, if at all, does Luka Doncic take the step from overall scorer slash guy that imposes his will on the game like he is now into like how Dirk did, into a guy that transcends the game of basketball and changes the way that certain people can find success? I think that is the question that I have about Doncic is going forward. Basically, for a lack of better terms, I'm just saying we know he's good, but can he be great? Can he be great?
Yeah, I think he's got it in him, man. If you like it, it seems up until arguably the end of the season, he kind of passed up on a couple big shots, but for the most part, it seemed earlier on in the season that he always wanted to take the last shot. Like, he knows that he's that guy going forward. I think even with Porzingis coming in, he's going to continue to know that he's the guy. They drafted him. They traded up for him for a reason and gave away a draft pick. Like, that's a big deal, man. Like, he's clearly got the back. He's clearly got Dallas's back behind him. They traded away Dennis Smith Jr. as soon as they could.
And in a world where everybody is so obsessed with who won and who lost the trade, can we just admit that both teams got exactly what they probably needed in that trade?
It worked out for both teams. There's no doubt about it. Trae Young's going to be great for a while, like for a very long time. He's looking like a young Steph Curry. Like,
kind of set up a situation in which there is a decimal percentage possibility by way of the draft lottery. Could you imagine Trae Young and Zion, man?
No, the
Holy hell. That franchise takes off at 100 miles an hour on the Autobahn immediately.
But honestly, if you think about it, so does every single franchise if you snag Zion Williamson.
I guess, man, but there are also less appetizing situations for him to fall within because look at how the NBA draft lottery is set up. There's a lot of changes in the NBA draft lottery this year.
I know the top 3 teams, I think they all have the same percentage chance, right?
Yep. And
Yeah,
and then like 4 and 5 have an increased chance as well. So basically what that tells me is the only teams with, and I think every team after that is like 3% or less. That tells me that there are 5 teams in the Zion remaining in the Zion sweepstakes. Those 5 teams being the Knicks, the Cavs, the Hawks, the Suns, and I believe the Bulls.
and you can't like him going to the Cavs.
I don't necessarily think that him going to the Cavs would be as immediate of a slam dunk as him going to the Hawks or the Suns, just because in Cleveland, my bad. Just because in Cleveland, you kind of Dr. Jekyll was not Jekyll without Mr. Hyde, you know. So Shaq and Kobe were a duo that became prevalent based on each other. So if Zion is going to fit that role with somebody else, Trae Young and Devin Booker kind of fit that mold a lot better than like the Zach LaVines and Dennis Smiths of the world and the Colin Sextons of the world, if that makes sense. I'm not saying it couldn't be successful. I'm just saying right away when you look at it on paper, seeing Zion and Trae in the same team immediately is like, wow. Zion and Booker on the same team is like, wow.
Yeah.
Zion and Zach LaVine and Lauri Markkanen might put a few people to sleep. At least that doesn't really entice me.
Chicago restores back. Like for them, it's like, wow, we've got like the next chosen one. You know what I mean? For the city,
Dude, I mean,
it's a huge deal, and that's a basketball city.
yeah, and for a large percentage of the college basketball season, I was on the fence. Not on who would go number 1, but I was on the fence on whether or not Zion really was a lock to go number 1. At this point, he certainly is, not only from a basketball standpoint, but dude, the moment you draft him,
Yeah.
within an hour of the moment of whatever team drafts him, his jersey is number 1, and his jersey will be number 1 in sales in the NBA.
Number 1 selling jersey for sure. He's the next Brown.
He's billboard material. He doesn't really have a scratch on him in terms of controversy. He obviously he's very young, and if your pickup lines to chicks on Snapchat go along the lines of how you got a big room, maybe you should.
Bro, it doesn't matter.
You got a big room, like really though?
So smooth.
He's like, I got a big room. Hey man, how about saying that? How about alluding to the size of your cock? like what your room? Like I've never gotten that. Or you could be like, hey, bitch, guess what?
Already in college.
Any day now, I could put ink to paper on that shoe deal, and I'm worth millions. Oh, what are you doing? You're going to class? Oh, I haven't been going for 3 weeks. Being him must be pretty nice right now.
The girls there, man.
So moving along. Let's take a look at how we did in the over under or what I'm calling the over under blunders. So let's start here. In the Atlantic Division.
Who did I have?
The New York Knicks were set at 27.5. They won 17 games. I, for some foolish fucking reason, had them winning more than 27.5 games. And you went under. So you were right.
Good for me.
Now we both whiffed on the next 3. Two of them were close. So we whiffed on one and we're wrong on a couple more. We whiffed on the Nets. We both had the Sixers over 54 wins. They eclipsed 51.
Oh, damn.
We both said under 55.5 for the Raptors. They won 58. However, you and I were both correct on the sentiment of the Celtics 59.5 being a little bit too high. They won 49.
Nice.
Moving on to the Central, I had the Hawks under 22.5 wins. They won 29. You had them over, so that's a dub for you. We were both wrong on the Magic, understandably so. I think Vegas probably made quite a bit of money on that betting fixture alone. I don't think a lot of people believe the Magic were going to win over 30.5 games. The Hornets 35.5. We both were correct on that, on the over on that. They won 39. We were both correct and like exactly correct in our assessment of the Heat. We were both saying that they would win between like 39 and 41. They won 39.
Nice.
And I think another one where Vegas was probably very successful, the Wizards, being going into the season clearly and by far and ahead the best team on paper in that division, and it was not even close.
Yeah, no.
And injuries kind of derailed that. We were both wrong on picking the over for 45.5. They won 32.
John Wall was hurt all year.
So at this point, Central. The Bulls, you had the Bulls winning over 30 games. I think I said to you on that podcast, I did not know where you were coming from on that. Here's one where we both, like, what were we both thinking here? Over 31 wins for Cleveland? Both of us.
I didn't say that. There's no way.
Yeah, dude. It's on the record. We both did.
I believe it.
So we both took L's on that. I was correct on the Pistons. Over 38.5. You had them under.
I was mean to the Pistons. I remember that.
We pushed on the Pacers. Their total was 48. They won exactly 48. And we both had the Bucks under 48.5, and they won 60. So if you're keeping score through the Eastern Conference, so far, for me, I have 5 wins, 9 losses, and a push.
Jeez.
You have 5 wins, 9 losses, and a push so far. Then we get into the West.
Jeez.
We pushed the Jazz. Their total was 50. They won 50. By the fucking slightest of margins, you and I both were correct on the Thunder, over 48.5. They won 49. We both said under on the Nuggets, 47.5. They won 54. I said over on the Blazers at 42. And to be honest with you, you were not giving the Blazers any love at all. You said under 42. And I believe, if I'm not mistaken, you said that they would finish bottom 4 in the West.
I was also hyping up my Mavs and Lakers.
I said some absurd shit on that podcast too, though, when you go back and listen to it. So we were both wrong, or I was right on the Blazers and you were off. We both went over on the Timberwolves, I think both based on the premise of we really were not sure if Jimmy Butler was going to go or not. I think trade talks intensified within the days after that. So we both, understandably so, missed that as well. We both believed the Warriors were going to win over 62 games and forgot that they don't give a fuck about the regular season. They won 57. We both believed the Lakers were going to be over 47.5. Again, things that were out of our control prevented that.
Why would I say that?
Another team in which we were both wrong, probably with rest of America, the Clippers 37.5. I don't think anybody in their right mind saw them winning 48.
They played.
Don't know why you went on the over for the Suns 29 wins. They won 19 games.
Dude, it's just
really they just have a couple of.
That's on the Suns. Like,
yeah,
I'm not gonna put that on me. They should have.
Plus, who's their coach? Thinking off the top of your head, you don't know his name either? Yeah, me neither. That's a problem.
Yeah, no idea.
I know he's some like I know
know
he's
he's
some like Middle Eastern European guy.
Whatever.
Yeah. I mean,
It's time to
yeah,
get the head coach.
terrible. Rockets 57. We both went over and we're both wrong. 53.
They started off slow.
You guys-
Dude, this is an astonishing number that I still to this day do not understand. And how you took the over on it. I took the under. 45 and a half wins for the Pelicans was their preseason over under. That's crazy. Looking back at it.
The Anthony Davis shit didn't heat up until like December.
I had to go under on that. You went over. We both went under 48 win or 43 and a half wins for the Spurs. We were both wrong. We both went over 35 and a half wins for the Mavericks. We were just off. They won 34.
I'm so much better than this, I feel like.
And then by the slightest of margins, we the Grizzlies were 33 and a half. We said under and they had 33. So in review, D-Bake finishes with a total record of 11 wins, 17 losses, and 2 draws. Tighe brings it up with 8 wins, 20 losses, and 2 draws.
God.
You guys are horrible.
We were both pretty woeful on that, man. We've got to come back next season with a little bit of a chip on our shoulder.
I'll do a lot better next year. I'm already pissed off.
I think we both picked Harden to win the MVP, though. So if that comes to fruition, we can both have that feather in our cap.
Did we both do that?
I believe that is a fact. I'm going to check.
I might feel like my dumbass might have said LeBron or something.
I don't think you did.
Okay.
We said and now it's disappeared from me. Where did it go? And to be quite honest with you, I kind of give up on looking for it. However, I do believe, given the
I'm
best
running with
sense of memory
Harden.
I have,
I'm running with Harden.
yeah, I think that we both had Harden winning the MVP in this season. Man, there's going to be a lot of intensifying of storylines, and understandably so, coming up here in the NBA in a few weeks. We're kind of getting close to dwindling this podcast down here at the moment. However, outside of the realm of the playoffs, my friend, is there anything that's really interesting you or really exciting you, or something that, a development that you can't wait to see unfold in the NBA outside of the realm of the playoffs over the next several weeks going into free agency? I think the draft lottery is the one that sticks out for me for sure.
Yeah, just my mindset's really just who's gonna get Zion. That's the big ticket.
Yeah, I mean it's a piece of information that re-sculptifies, if that's even a word, the landscape of the NBA for years.
Yeah, you took the words out of my mouth.
Yeah, man. Well, any other thoughts from you, my friend? I think that I've had a lot of fun doing this, and am looking forward to including this as kind of a weekly thing. Your kind of final thoughts on everything, my friend Tighe Ljungholm.
It was a good night. Let's all hope for a Bucks and Sixers series because that'll be unbelievable.
Would be phenomenal.
Other than that, I appreciate you having me on, man.
Of course, brother. Of course, brother. And we're gonna get used to that fact here going forward. As I said,
Late night sesh.
yes, sir. And I can get used to them, man. Talking about sports is never a bad day for me, and understandably so. I wouldn't be sitting in this position if that were not a fact.
Absolutely.
And that would be even more prevalent based on the knowledge that, as I've alluded earlier, this week is a very busy week for the Bottom Line podcast. Tomorrow night, as I've said earlier, I'm being joined by none other than indie freelance journalist and writer David McGrath, as well as BoxingScene.com's, or I hope I'm getting that right. I'll have to make sure I get the website that he writes for right by tomorrow. Daniel Yanofsky. Those two will both be joining me tomorrow. We'll talk about fights this upcoming weekend, as well as Crawford and Khan, what happened there on Saturday. And then Wednesday is the NFL mock draft extravaganza. Thursday night, I will offer solo fashion my thoughts and grades on each pick. For my good friend, Mr. Ljungholm, and I, we thank you for joining us and listening to this podcast and expect you to be back for more in the future. But until then, we must sign off. Till then, see you next time.
Thank you.